To Twitter, this from ESPN's Pedro Gomez. This from Nolan Arenado. Quote, "We felt we missed it yesterday by playing, and we wanted to stand by our brother Matt Kemp and the black community." Nolan Arenado with that quote. Trevor Story said the Rockies missed an opportunity to sit along with Matt Kemp on Wednesday. Quote, "We had a chance to stand up with our guy last night, and we didn't do it." Inside Studio 42, Greg Amsinger, pleased to be joined by Sean Casey, Hall of Famer Pedro Martinez, who's back with us, Harold Reynolds, Buck Showalter, Fran Charles, who have been leading us on MLB Tonight for a couple hours now. And I think we should probably start there. What do you think about what Nolan Arenado and Trevor Story said?
Well, I think I'm glad they stood up like that. I'm glad they took ownership of that because, it's got to be a united front. And you're seeing that from teams and you're seeing that from sports all around that, with unity, they're stronger. I always think the adage, nothing changes if nothing changes. And it's time for change. And I think we're starting to see that. And I think the great thing about baseball and all sports out there, they have a platform. And that platform speaks loudly for social change, and we need it here in our culture.
I think what's unique with what they said, don't miss the moment. This is a unique moment in time and history that we're going to look back on, and there's going to be change, and you want to be part of this. And I understood what they were saying, that Matt Kemp, and there was a couple other teams that didn't quite stand up for their players. And I remember Cliff Floyd sitting here yesterday saying that. He looked at it from that perspective. I didn't see it that way. Clearly they did. And so I think the big thing for me is don't miss the moment. We are in a unique time in our country, in our world, in history. And if you miss the moment, you're missing life, what's going on. Because you cannot walk around and not see what's going on, or you're just totally blind to what's happening.
Pedro, is it unfair that I'm thinking about the teams that maybe have missed the moment, teams that have played and played again today?
Well, for whatever reason, when you call yourself a teammate, and when you're part of a team, you expect to be together in everything. We take pride on saying, I'm a good teammate. I'm a team player. And when you see those guys that probably, because they have different experience with what happened, be so hurt. Like we saw Dominic Smith from the Mets, in tears, just clearly saying, I'm hurting from that because I probably experienced that. My family member experienced that. I was almost in tears when I saw him talk that way, because I know what it's like to lose a family member, what it's like to probably be exposed to some of those things. I've been exposed in America to someone drawing a gun for the first time ever. I didn't even have it in the Dominican, but I had someone in Miami Beach because I lost my wallet, and someone called that someone had broken into a house, pull a gun and just say, hey, hold it right there, hold your hands up. I held it up, and thank God didn't go any further than that, but it could have happened. And for some of those guys that experience that and not have their teammates support them at that moment when they really know what it's like to have a gun drawn towards you, it's got to be uncomfortable. So I believe now that we have the platform, that we have every source of communication, and we have the face and the status to actually make a point. We all should, as teammates, as a team. So if one of my teammates is hurting, let's say that it was your father that just passed away in whatever form that is, in a field, a teammate that died in the field, we would have postponed the game. So it's the same thing. When you're a teammate, you support your teammate. And I believe they should have taken that moment and think about it. Think about how Kemp was feeling and support him. I would have done it. I would have been really vocal about saying, no, not tonight. We're all feeling the same way. It doesn't matter who it is.
But I think what we just heard from all the players and the coaches, managers, was very impressive, because as we know, these situations are fluid, and they will continue to be fluid. And it seems like the awareness throughout Major League Baseball over the last 24 hours, I mean, has moved through, I mean, beautifully. And to hear Ron Renicky in simple terms really just lay out, are we going to change the world by not playing a game tonight? No. But he hopes that Red Sox fans, young Red Sox fans, ask their parents, hey, why is there no baseball tonight? And that it's incumbent upon the parents to then turn and have some maybe difficult conversations with their kids about what's going on in the world, what's going on in the country, and how we take the baby steps to make it better. And, you know, to see the tweets from Arenado and Story, yeah, they may have missed it yesterday, but that's life.
Well, and the other thing, too, friend, is the moment is not just yesterday.
Right.
This started for a period of time we've been living through, the pandemic, through George Floyd and on. So the moment to me is don't miss what's happening in the country. Don't miss this opportunity for change. You know, you go back to the 60s, it didn't happen in one year. It happened in a decade and still changing. So, but that had to happen at some point. So the moment isn't just right now, today. It is moving forward. Did they miss a game opportunity yesterday that they hit today? But there's going to be many more chances to live in this moment and see this change. Go ahead, Buck.
I tell you, I'm just listening. This is great. I just like to soak it in. I'm just every once in a while I got to jolt myself.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
listening to you
incredible, right?
guys. But you know, I think about the managers and stuff through this situation. You know, really, in a nutshell, leadership is defining reality. And it may come from Pete or Sean or you as a player. It may come from the manager. But every once in a while, you have to have somebody that defines reality. Okay, and along the way, you're going to step on some toes if you're constantly telling somebody what they need to hear instead of what they want to hear. And if you're going to have some backbone to define reality. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of people that are showing their backbone. But being a part of a team is more than just you know, the sum of the parts of the individuals. You know, this is a great example why, you know, sports is the great equalizer of men because, you know, when we're in a competitive situation, I don't care where you're from, what you're doing, what your background is. If you can help us win, you know, you're one of us. And you know, I've been fortunate enough to travel to Dominican and travel to Venezuela and Puerto Rico and Mexico and all parts, Canada, Korea, you know, and you understand you're not in this alone. We're not the only ones in America that can play the game, and there's different cultures and different things that make us all who we are. You know, we don't have all the answers, but you know, the ability to step back and go, okay, let me look at realistically what's going on, and going, really? And I've been blind to that. You know, and you put yourself in somebody else's shoes. You haven't walked that walk, so listen to them and see. Maybe it'll help you walk your walk.
Well, one other point, and I mean, I'll turn it over, but I just think it really goes to show, too, that how much your own personal experience affects how you feel.
True.
And so here you have clubhouses across Major League Baseball, and it's all the sports, all the major sports. And because they have a personal connection to their teammates, and Dom Smith, you mentioned, was incredibly emotional after last night's game, that got through to the Mets. You know, seeing Dom Smith react the way he did. They may not know Jacob Blake. You know, they may not have known George Floyd. They may not have, you know, people of color who live in their neighborhoods. But they know the guys who are on their team. And when they see those players who are on their team, they don't see color. They see a teammate. They see a brother. And so when they see a family member hurting, they rally in support of that family member. And so today you see teams that didn't have the opportunity or missed the opportunity, or however you want to phrase it, that they wanted to make sure that they represented their family members well and supported them, and so they postponed the games today. And I think it's kind of a microcosm of kind of where we are in society. Is that people don't, because they feel like they may not know. They may not know people of color. They may not know, they see these images on TV, but they don't interact with those people in their daily lives. But if they did, they would realize everybody's pretty much all the same, just trying to get through life one day at a time.
There's not an expiration date of getting into the race, so to speak. Waking up and seeing it and getting in this struggle and in this battle, there's not an expiration date. It wasn't, you had to do it yesterday, you're not accepted today.
But my point
Can't you hurt your
is the
teammates,
growth.
though,
My
the
point is
longer
the
you
growth.
wait?
Excuse me?
Can you hurt your teammates the longer you wait?
Oh, yeah, you can hurt, but you know what, Greg? At some point in time, if someone says, I'm in and I understand, I get it, I can't tell them when it's going to be that time for them to understand it. You know, this struggle's been going on long before we got here. You know what I mean? And so finally now, I've got my brothers and sisters that are older than me, some that are in their 70s going, wow, somebody's finally waking up. I got a call from somebody I went to high school with the other day. You know, this is something they're saying. That didn't get it when they were 18 years old, 60 years ago. But they're getting it now when they're 78 years old. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying it's not ever too late to wake up.
Yes.
I think one thing, too, that we're seeing is that social change doesn't happen overnight. And when you continue to see sports teams and baseball players walking off, I think the biggest point here is as a country, as a nation, we need to open our eyes, we need to open up our ears, and you need to push forward for policies to change at some point. And I think that's the biggest thing. Let's not just, actions speak louder than words. Let's not just say it. At some point, policies need to change, and we need to really move forward in unity as a country.
Yeah.
You know what really scares me? The first time my kids are going to hear that I had a gun drawn towards me is today. And blame it on me for not being more vocal about it, for not advising my kids that those things could happen. But I was born in a different country. And I come over looking forward to a better life, you know, the land of opportunity, being nice, being respectful. But right now, it hit me because I wanna just think as a teammate, as a baseball player, as a role model, as a father. What are the kids that were sitting in the back of the car, going to think about the way they saw it?
Talking about Jacob Blake's children.
Yeah, they were in the back of the car, and his father got shot 7 times.
Yep.
By a Caucasian policeman. What is going to be like for those kids in the future? How do you erase that memory from those kids? What are we going to do to erase the memories that those kids are going to grow up with? It's really scary. And I never told my kids that I was hold at gunpoint, you know, raise your hands, confused with someone else.
Yeah.
But in this case, we have to really think where society is taking us.
But that shows, Pedro, the change that's happening. And we always talk about having conversation, sharing dialogue. You're sharing stories that people, not only your kids, would be amazed and shocked at. That's what people have to hear to understand this changing. There's 2 things that happens in this day and age that we're in now. Social media has changed everything. Because now you're seeing it. There was people back in Georgia, wherever it might be, back in the day, Emmett Till, whoever else that got killed, nobody saw it. You know, things happen. Now you're starting to see these things on social media. You're starting to see it brought to the surface right in front of you. And it changes when you see it. When you're talking about his kids seeing it now, a whole country's seeing it now. Mm-hmm. And that was never a place to be at before.
Yeah.
So when somebody shares a story like you, nobody went, I can't believe that happened to Pedro. Everybody now says, I believe it. It happened. Why? Because they're seeing it happen way too much.
The image.
We hope everybody thinks.
True.
I can't believe that happened to Pedro. I think there's still some people, and this is why you got to keep pushing the ball up the hill, that would say, well, maybe Pedro maybe had something to do with that, or we're not getting the whole story. We got to get past that, and we got to get to the point where, and I'm just using Pedro just because you gave the example. When Pedro tells his story, like Kay said, we listen. We don't rebut. We don't talk. We listen.
Yeah.
And then we process it through Pedro's eyes, because what your situation is, Case, a lot of times it's going to be different than what Pedro's situation is, or Harold's situation, or my situation. So that's why it's important, as you said, to listen.
Yep.
We don't do enough listening.
No.
Got to do more listening.
I thought it was powerful what Archie Bradley said, too. I've been privileged my whole life. We need white players to acknowledge that. I've been privileged my whole life. I also love what Tony Kemp said. We're activists right now. We're all activists right now.
I'm an activist now. I'm not a player. I got a platform. I got an opportunity to speak about this for 4 hours today. People are listening, and this is the opportunity. And so when the NBA came back and said, we're going to finish the season, I was happy about that. Not because they're going to be playing basketball, but every post game, every pregame, every interview, they have a chance to speak to millions about this. If we take the baseball players today and say, that's it, it's the last day of the year, we're out, you think we can hear from these guys again like we did just now? The power of the platform keeps the thing alive.
Yes.
And when you continue to speak it, change happens in words and in power and action, because there's power in the words you say.
Yep.
And so when you're using that platform, those opportunities, every night, I don't care if you're 0 for 5 or 5 for 5, they're going to ask you about your performance. And you get a chance to say whatever you want because you have that powerful of the platform.
Power of the words.
Same thing with the football. That's why I encourage these athletes. I get it. You protest the day and the game and everything else. Understood, and rightfully so. But now, as you move forward, use that platform to speak out because people are listening. And not just 1 or 2, but millions. That's the platform you have.
And the Mets and the Marlins used that platform tonight because they didn't just not show up. They didn't see them on the field. The game's been postponed, empty ballpark. We actually had an image that we'll never forget of a game that was about to start, and then they all in unison walked off the field together. And I'll never forget that. Power of the image was huge. Fran, Buck, Harold, that was great. Thank you so much for sticking around. We're going to be back. Lots of stuff to get to. This image right here says it all. We're back after this.